his own interest in the Chinese market, not exclusively on trading and marketing as we discussed in other panels, but rather a broader approach, bringing into account payments, blockchain and bullion, and the ways they intertwine in China and across Asian regions. So I'll leave the floor to Avi to take this and enjoy the panel, ask questions, take notes. Good luck.
Thank you, Jonathan, and again, thank you for the audience for coming after lunch. Appreciate it. Okay, so most of our panels so far were focused on the FX industry, which is natural for this conference, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to learn more about, I would say, other financial companies. Some are related to FX trading, some are not. And look, and through that have another window on Asia and China in particular. So, with that said, please introduce yourself, start your name.
Hi, my name is Avner Avi, CEO of ZotaPay. 10 years ago, started studying Chinese in Haifa University. I got a scholarship, Kunming. Started 2008 with eToro, back then, gaming in Gibraltar, then 7 years in SafeCharge. And the past year, I joined the winning team of ZotaPay. Vast experience on payments, Chinese region, regulation, etc.
Good afternoon. My name is Jack Liu. With OK Group. So many of you may know us for starting the largest Chinese Bitcoin exchange in 2013. In 2014, we opened up the OKCoin International Exchange, which trades US dollar. And last year, we started a Hong Kong office to further expand the OKCoin International Exchange, as well as moving into our second product, which will be the focus today, OK Link. We're essentially using blockchain technology to build a new SWIFT, if you will, for small payments. So think of it like a global blockchain settlement network. Today it services nearly 40 countries, and we have over 100 partners making small transfers cross-border on our network right now. As far as what my background is, I started my career 7 years ago at Barclays here in Hong Kong in equity derivatives, and then spent some time in Silicon Valley with a startup, and spent, of course, 2 years in Beijing with our parent company.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arai Ezzra. So I'm from dinardirham. I'm a co-founder of dinardirham. So basically, our company is based in Singapore and Hong Kong. So our technology is based on blockchain. We created from some of the technology using a blockchain. So we are using Ethereum technology as our backend for the solution of the technology. Okay.
Bullion trading. Okay, so the first question, just to get started, is about Asian fintech markets in general. Which markets do you see, being as the next growth market? Specifically here, we've seen an uptick in the number of Southeast Asians, Indonesian companies that we didn't see in previous years. So we want to know what markets do you see in your respective industries as the upcoming markets?
Okay, so first of all, you can see definitely that there is an industry, a different industry for financial services and fintech in Asia. It's not developed anymore, it's here. I've been in this specific show maybe 4 years ago in Macau, 3 years ago here, and I see a lot of new faces, many new names, new brokers, even the payment solutions over here. Almost everyone are new. So what I understand from it, it's not the traditional industry that the financial services, fintech, used to know. The big names like FXCM, Alpari, Ava, etc. are relevant, but you see more and more newcomers, brokers, either it's Forex, CFD, blockchain, Bitcoin, even binaries. Today you can see in the show, for example, are coming, and I see a different industry basically in Asia region. Mainly, most of the Asians are approaching China market, but not only. Malaysia, Indonesia are, from my side at least, where we do the processing of payments. And the first field with the merchant, with the broker, where he needs his payment solutions, basically where his target markets are going to be. And we see an increased demand for Malaysia, Indonesia, obviously China. So I would say first of all, there is an industry, there is a fintech industry which is different. It's established already in Asia, and the majority is China, Indonesia, Malaysia. That would be the hardcore part, let's say.
Yeah, I would concur with that. So I think last year the global fintech investment trends were very sharply down in Europe and in the US, maybe upwards of 50%. But in China, I think it was slightly higher. So there's definitely a concentration of opportunities in Asia. I think maybe a couple factors for that. Number one is finance traditionally was very tied to financial centers, New York, London, Singapore, Hong Kong included. Because Hong Kong really, finance wasn't really seen as a technology, it was seen as sort of a social good between governments and people. And then the blockchain technology allows many more entrants to become financial services players. And so the bar to offer financial services is much lower with blockchain technology. Secondly, with the mobile phone adoption, if you look at where it's concentrated, it's pretty flat across the world. It's kind of a leapfrogging technology. So now you have a base of users on which the access point isn't necessarily a number of branches that's open in the area. It can be, just mobile penetration, which is very high across all countries in Asia. And then drilling down to blockchain opportunities that we see, clearly payments are a big area, and so some of the growth markets related to blockchain we can see very evident in places like Korea, where previous payment companies like PayPal haven't really been able to enter the market because it's very much bank driven. But now there are new emerging players in the blockchain space. So we're already on the OKLink network. For a data point, we have over 20 partners on our network that are from Korea. And then Philippines is our number 2 market. I think there's like 9 on our network today. And so Philippines is a really big market for connecting the world to remittances and increasing that. And so those are 2 markets I think people don't usually think about.
Okay, from my point of view, I think China is no doubt that currently gaining momentum regarding the popularity of the fintech. But I think Southeast Asia is the one that currently gaining attraction for the next unicorn going to be. We can see that in Singapore, currently the government giving the support for the fintech industry, and not only that, as you can see in the Philippines, you can see that Philippines is getting traction also regarding the apps that peer-to-peer transfer using a blockchain technology, and I think there's a next wave of the fintech maybe come from the Southeast Asia.
I'll add to that we're seeing in the Philippines, for example, think about we're working toward licensing Bitcoin firms as remittances companies in order to help Philippines working abroad to save money. So there is a case where you can see that in Asia, or more emerging markets in Asia are developing regulation ahead of the Western countries, trying to leapfrog them using the technology. So that leads me to my next question, which is what markets, or should I say, what industries do you see the technology fintech most adapted or most susceptible to be disrupted? Specifically, there are a lot of like payments providers. Like, what can you do that's that's better? Where do you see the opportunity? And for Jack, why did you decide to take blockchain technology that you were in a very specific an exchange and take that into remittances? And Arai, if you can explain why did you took blockchain for bullion trading? Like, what do you think that the technology offers over the traditional offerings? So let's start with Abdel.
Okay, so technology-wise, you can see today many platforms. The platform model who is working today, more and more increasingly users are coming to either trading platform, either to marketplaces. They want to invest money, they want to find new investment possibilities or opportunities. And they basically today will try at least open an account or make an execution, whether it's on blockchain, whether it's a new FX platform, CFD, social trading, etc. So I think most of the companies today, the fintech companies, understands that the technology is a major part of their growth. The white labeling is a good part, but it doesn't give you any uniqueness. From our side, from the payment side, I can tell you that what we have built and concentrated in the past year was to conduct as many integrations as possible to acquire banks, PSPs, and e-wallets that accept Forex, binary, financial services, marketplaces. Like a company like Kickstarter, for example, the model of a marketplace, usually the banks, the acquiring banks, do not support it or do not like to support it. And this type of merchants or businesses in their early beginnings, whoever is not Kickstarter, has a really big problem to which bank to apply himself. So what basically we try to do is to create one gateway system, one cashier system that will be connected to all the payment partners around the world, or to the majority of them, at least the ones that are doing and dealing with the fintech. And within the fintech industry, because it is so innovative, it is always 1 or 2 steps ahead before the banks. So you have a new blockchain, and until the banks acquire a bank like Barclays, for example, will approve a merchant with a license in a blockchain, it might take several months in the best case scenario. In the meantime, there are different solutions around the world that we need to concentrate, focus, find, and connect them. So from our side, this is the technology we have been built and focused on to enable these acquirers. Some of these acquirer banks, e-wallets or coupon vouchers, blockchain, doesn't want to be seen into the market. They want to stay in the backside. The nature of the Bitcoin, for example, transfers is more anonymously. And basically, when I receive Bitcoin, I don't know who sent it to me. So I need to check and ask all the banks that we work with, did you send me Bitcoin? Obviously, everyone said yes. They say, how much? So it's very anonymous. What was that? Technology?
Which market?
And again, the markets I'm supporting, these days are China, Indonesia, Malaysia. I'm joining a job about Korea. Japan, obviously, is a crazy market. But technology-wise, so fintech, it's more marketplaces, platforms, innovation. And from our side, the banks not always support this innovation. So we need to find the gap. Maybe it will take a couple of months, maybe it will take a couple of years until these traditional banks will accept these new technologies and it will become the mainstream. up until then, we will be creative and we'll find a solution not traditionally.
Yeah, my take on that is you have to really look at this word disruption, which I personally don't really like in financial services. Many of the existing financial players, for example, you mentioned Barclays, they were built 300 years ago. That you think of that as a bad thing, like right to be disrupted, but at the same time, they've built up an incredible base of users, a franchise, and when you say blockchain, what does it disrupt? People often compare the startups to the banks exactly one-to-one, and they look at it and say, not exactly too much of a threat, and I would actually agree. So blockchain is not just about existing players being able to trust each other and being able to save money on their settlements. It's about if now there's a common trust ledger for any new person or new startup to be able to be connected and have very efficient settlements, then perhaps the new SWIFT network is not just a network of 11,000 banks for account-to-account transfers. You can imagine a lot more different experiences like sending Skype credits and then somebody in the Philippines picking up cash. So basically, I think the way the financial services industry will change is that consumers who are not already using banks very heavily, so Generation Z or millennials, they may start behaving in a way where they go for niche solutions. So this is the kind of death to the financial industry by 500 cuts that people talk about. And so it's very hard to look at any particular feature or company as saying, that makes sense to me, that's going to disrupt a certain bank or a certain player. I'm sure in the first couple of years of Twitter, people really did not see the parallel between that and the traditional news media. And that's where I think fintech is getting interesting. The last wave of fintech was really, let me take the exact model, let's say lending, and put it onto a website or onto an app. But I think the next group of fintech players will dramatically change the experience, hide it, evolve it such that it becomes very hard to compete if you're a bank just by cutting costs or just by copying. So that's where I think the disruption is. Specifically, the juiciest part to me right now is payments, because cross-border payments is an agreement between two parties or many parties to do business, and that's something that kind of coordination is hard to for the existing system to improve on. And payments, while it may not be the biggest part of a bank's business, let's say there's $500 billion a year of remittances, it is quite a profitable part for these existing remittance players. And so fintech, I think, will evolve into more and more niche, and people talk about consolidation in fintech. It's all about which part of the value proposition are you going to take. So many of the startups in previous years wanted to do the whole thing. And now that there's a whole ecosystem, so much investment, we can now consolidate in a way where there's something for everyone. Either you're on the customer acquisition side, you're on the delivery side of the service, or in the case of OK Link, we're about providing that platform for everyone to connect to each other.
Okay, from my point of view, the most disrupting technology, I think, that can be simplify anything to do. Let's say the best example is Uber. At the first launch of Uber, people didn't see what the Uber can bring solution to the user. But until now, you can see that Uber can solve many things. Even in US, I just come back from Miami last month. There's an advertisement Uber in the iPod. So that's been Uber disrupting the taxi technology. So I think in Asia, focus in the market in Asia, I think the best is is related to mobile technology. Because in Asia, I think almost 70 to 80% penetration using your mobile technology can be simplified. Okay, so like my company doing, dinardirham, we simplify the process of holding the gold, buying and selling the gold. Okay, And then, as you can see that in the South Asia market, there's a lot of startup and using a blockchain technology. But blockchain technology, the best proven is Bitcoin 7 years ago. But in the blockchain technology itself, we just most of the startup is just a prototype. They don't have any proven products in the market yet. But I think in 2017, there's a lot of new company that are using a blockchain going to be established by this year, 2017.
I wanted to answer your question about why did we as a Bitcoin exchange look at doing settlements for international business, international remittance. Really, we are, just to give a background, OKCoin now is about 230 people, split between Beijing and Hong Kong. And so we were sort of relatively large players in the Bitcoin space. So we looked at this very much not as a prototype, not as a concept, but we were operating a fairly decent business running an exchange. And so we view this technology similar to the internet as an evolution. So we think in the first phase, when people first discovered Bitcoins, it was very much geeks or technologists who saw the code, understood it, and trusted the blockchain. And they would acquire Bitcoin because they knew exactly what it was. It was not going to be tampered. It was not going to be inflated. And these early users, to which I would say there's maybe 500,000, 1 million or 2 today, who are very involved. They needed a wallet solution to hold what they wanted to use as a currency, needed an exchange to buy and sell it, and maybe needed a merchant processor to spend it, their currency around. But only very few amount of people were able to enjoy the benefit of Bitcoin, which was near instant payments and settlement, very cheap costs of transfers. But if you think about the average population, there was sort of after that 2013 bubble, a realization that most people who are living paycheck to paycheck are not really going to convert majority of their income into Bitcoin just for the benefit of faster or cheaper payments. So therefore, I think businesses started getting involved in this term called blockchain in 2015, 2016, which is about how do I take that efficiency of a peer-to-peer transaction, put it underneath a new network that can now power fiat-to-fiat transactions in a more smooth way. And so we look at it as a technology, and now businesses are starting to trust the blockchain because of this 7 to 8 year track record. You don't have to be a genius to see that nothing has really been changed in the Bitcoin blockchain. And so that is where I think we've moved from the geek phase of blockchain to a business phase of blockchain. And so we see that as an opportunity for us as platform builders, as platform operators to build sort of an infrastructure, which is what we're, think is more of our company's suit. And then I think going forward in a couple of years' time, you might have blockchain finally for consumers. And it may still not be used as a currency, but it could be validating your health records, validating your report card, different kind of identity layers that every single person are going to deal with the blockchain directly.
I just want you to explain to people, because I don't know if, how much everyone understands how it works. So they're using Bitcoin not only as a currency, but actually as a platform. If you can explain, how you're using the Bitcoin blockchain.
So as Abner explained, the Bitcoin by itself can be anonymous. Just like if you use the internet, it could be anonymous. That's what Julian Assange uses, right? So we use Bitcoin only in the sense it's a settlement credit. So on our network, it's all licensed players in every single country who have an MSO license or their banking charter. And they're using, basically, they're providing fiat services to the end user. So someone can walk into, use an app and load up with Korean won, and then initiate a transfer to their family member in Indonesia, in IDR. And in the middle, the Korean company will convert into a settlement digital currency of their choice. Bitcoin is one of them. And they can pass that through to our decentralized sort of distributed network to the Philippines partner, which in this case could be Coins.PH or Rebit or Cebuana, some of a variety of companies on our network. and they would convert the digital tokens and give away in Indonesia IDR, or in the Philippines PHP. So the end users only see fiat currencies, but the digital token in the middle is settling much faster. So to your question of, is Bitcoin one of the choices? Yes, so for some players who are just early into the remittance space, they want to do small transfers, Bitcoin is actually very efficient. Because Swift network has sort of a minimum transfer fee of $30 US, and that doesn't really work for some of our smaller partners. But we also recognize that the US dollar is still the king of global settlements if you look at the traditional remittance industry, and we're very much not tied to Bitcoin. So we issued a OK dollar on the blockchain. So each OK dollar is a digital US dollar unit, and they're backed by real physical US dollars in a trust account. And this trust is holding US dollars on behalf of the entire network and the people and the companies who hold the OK dollars. So that sort of is what is different now than maybe people who tried this similar idea in the 1990s, is that the platform provider, the technology, which is OK-Link, does not need to be trusted by the different companies that are using this network to not run away with the US dollars or tamper with the books. This is what allows our partners across the world to trust each other instantaneously. And if you look at the sort of speeds that we're making payouts on, for very small value transfer, I think the average transfer on our network is like $250 today. This is what really lowers the speed. Because a lot of the, if you notice in the last 5-10 years, a lot of the national banking transfers are already very fast, with SEPA in Europe, ACH making upgrades in the US. Korea's real time and China's very near real time. But when you make an international transfer, the efficiency of the two ends doesn't really matter when the middle part takes 2 days. And so OK-Link's role here is just to remove that friction and sort of enable a better customer experience. Does that answer the question?
Okay, I just want the audience to know that after this next question, you'll get an opportunity to ask questions. So, you know, if you have something in mind, get ready. Okay, so next question is about the instrument themselves. In our case, it's gold and Bitcoin. You know, because we are from the trading industry, so you know, basically, I want to hear your opinions about why, you know, either gold or Bitcoin is so popular in Asia. For example, just you know, China used to dominate trading volumes, and right now it's you know, I would say it's larger Asia. It's China and Japan. So you know. And obviously gold is known, you can just walk on the streets of Hong Kong and see how popular it is. So just to get your opinion on why is that?
First of all, I think it's far more than just Bitcoins and other solutions. You would see in Asia hundreds of alternative payment methods and e-wallets. Each region, country, even province has its own payment method, has its own localized language, and in the end of the day, if you want to be able to collect money from as many users as possible, you would have to integrate with these systems. So it's not only Bitcoin or credit cards, or that you would see, for example, the names we know is WeChat or Alipay. A tremendous and numerous amount of transactions per day are also going to the localized type of local payment methods. JCB, as you mentioned in Japan, I think still is one of the significant issuers in regards to number of transactions. And basically it's not only Bitcoin as far as we're concerned. In regards to Bitcoin, from our side is basically to, as these guys mentioned, how you enable buying gold or Bitcoin and facilitate your normal life with a credit card, with bank transfer, with you have a bank account. Even if you want to be able to collect Bitcoin, how many you said? 2 million population of the Bitcoin community users today?
There's like
More or less?
15 million wallets, but I was
15
referring to we're very dedicated to the user base.
Back there. Okay, so 15 million today versus a couple of billion that you can support money from is still very limited amount of users. And basically, I think the majority of the work today should be still how to convert regular users, traditionals, with Visa, MasterCard, into the Bitcoin usage. How, for example, one of the OK platform, OK applications is a very good example how you enable this usage into your day-to-day work, into your day-to-day life, into the company expenses, etc., etc. But still, until we will have a payment page of Bitcoin in almost every website that we go to the supermarket, etc., I think it will be hard still for the day-to-day users, not the tech-savvy, of course, to use it. I'll give you an example. Today, if you go into China, any city, into the market, you want to buy tomatoes and cucumbers, so the seller over there will tell you, you can QR my WeChat code, you can pay me here, like 5 miles. So you understand how in depth, for example, WeChat is in the day-to-day of the Chinese people, how they can facilitate swift transfers from one person to another. And I think we have a still long way until we will be there for Bitcoin.
Okay, from my point of view, Bitcoin is still in early phase. As you can see, the market capital is 18 billion, still early phase, still small, relatively small compared to our financial system. So when we see at that point of view, we see that there's an early phase of Bitcoin market in the industry. Okay, and then one thing that we, as a user is afraid to jump into Bitcoin because they know that one thing is Bitcoin price is fluctuating. So they don't want to involve with Bitcoin because the price very fluctuate. So they don't want to participate in Bitcoin because of that. And not only that, another thing is for Bitcoin also they don't have any party or any company that they can trust. And now, because why? Because we're still in early phase of Bitcoin. So what dinardirham solution provide, what we built is, we built a token that can back by gold, one-to-one back. So instead of Bitcoin, you can there's another alternative that can hold the token that have gold back value compared to Bitcoin, something like that.
I want you to follow up on gold in the markets that you operate. Why is it so market leading compared to other markets where gold is just another item on the list? In parts of Asia, it looks very much to be the main force. If you can explain, like, how do you see it?
Okay, people know that gold is the most stable asset in the world. Okay, from old days of time, gold is the most stable. But then, until now, there's no instrument or there's no system that they can use value or something that can make a purchase. You cannot just simply go to the shop, you can go to the restaurant and make a payment using the gold. Okay, so, but people love gold. In us, especially in Southeast Asia, India, and Malaysia, Indonesia, people love to keep the gold. But the problem is, they cannot simply go to the shop and restaurant to make the payment. And then also, when they keep the gold, when they want to sell back, it will be spread and already reduced 30%. So we see the opportunity there. So that's what we built. We built some token that can back by gold, that can simplify the process, that can make payment, you can withdraw to debit card, and one thing that you can exchange to Bitcoin. Because why? Bitcoin is in the early phase. No doubt that Bitcoin still doesn't touch the market yet. But I think in few years, Bitcoin is going to be the next asset that's going to be, when I'm not mistaken, in March soon, there's a ETF Bitcoin from Winklevoss brother. When the SEC will approve that, I think Bitcoin will shoot up for the price.
Okay, we have time for a question from the audience. Jonathan, we have time for last.
Yeah.
So this will probably be the last question. We have about 5 minutes to take. We want to know what trends are you seeing going forward in your respective industries? If you see, we got to focus on now in 2017, 2018. Like what's shaping the market right now that you're operating in?
This goes back to my earlier point, which is that the real trend is the barrier to enter financial services is coming lower and lower. And so on our network, we're seeing small businesses who are getting a remittance license in their home country, in the UK or Canada, now being very excited to basically offer a global offering to anyone in Canada without doing the painful work of connecting with the Philippines, connecting with India, pre-funding, understanding the customer service quality in each country. All that stuff has been sort of removed by us and other companies like us. And therefore, to an average Canadian or a migrant worker in Canada, all of a sudden there's going to be a boom in the number of services that offer sending money back home. And so currently people are still competing on speed and on cost. If you look at the end experience, you can go to Western Union and you get it fast, but it's more expensive. You can go to your bank and send a wire, but you have to have a bank account. I'm saying for the end user, as a result of this technology being able to enable thousands of companies to join this network, you're going to see a lot of experience at the end user level. And eventually what will happen is payroll companies may integrate cross-border services into their app, such that the need to download the money transfer app specifically, or the need to go to Western Union is gone, regardless of if those services are free, because it'll be sort of determined how much of your money you want to go where, and that's what blockchain enables. So you could have in every paycheck determine this is how much I want in dollars, this is how much I want sent to my family back home, and this is all pre-programmed for you. And so that's one trend that we could see, which is a really great integration of financial services. Another trend we could arrive at is that much like in Facebook, when you message a person in your own country versus another country, you don't really know the difference. Same with WeChat. That might happen to financial services in the long run. So perhaps you won't be that aware that whether you're making a local transfer or a cross-border transfer, because the systems running the scenes behind it can acutely integrate every national policy when it comes to AML, regulations, and sort of that entire architecture can be rebuilt now by a number of companies in the world.
Okay, the next trend, what I can see, for example, let's see IFXEXPO. I've been attending every year since 2013. From my view on this event, this year there's lots of discussion going on with blockchain and Bitcoin compared to last year and before. So that means that there's a trending. There's a lot of Bitcoin and blockchain company will pop up by this year. And no doubt that by next year there's going to be few blockchain company going to be here in IFXEXPO next year. You have
a Bitcoin stand right over here. I'm sorry, this is ours. At least we were crazy enough to do a Bitcoin stand.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah. But I think the trend that currently happening in Asia, it is related to mobile, because everything that everyone have mobile in hand. So whichever that simplify the process of doing something using mobile can be a trending in the market right now.
Okay, I see two different trendings that more or less they're not combined with each other. Actually, they're against each other, and they coexist at this point. I don't know what will happen in the future, but the first trend that you can see more and more startup companies, or let's say the new type of investments. People today can invest in, let's say, Kickstarter, in a product they love, in the person they love. Companies like eToro, you can copy-trade someone if you trust them, or if you just think he's a good trader. Companies like invest.com, for example, the new type of investments, you can take your whole portfolio, including real estates and international investments, into one platform. So users are traditionally, you have the Forex, the CFDs. The binary users, I think, will vanish from the world gradually because of the bad reputation of the industry. However, you will always have new investors or newbies that would like to buy a Nike or Facebook share. So, from one hand, you will see more and more new type of investments, and the best way to support it, obviously, would be Bitcoin or the blockchains. I see today also several companies that want to raise funds. Instead of going to investors or to VC, they are going to Bitcoin crowdfunding, where basically they are approaching to the investors and they issue their own company coin. So instead of issue shares, they issue their own coin, and people who want to invest in the company just buy this coin. Now if the company is doing good, this coin worth and price will go up, so-called the share. And you don't have to do IPO or going to public or sell the company in order to gain money as an investor on your shares. It is tradable all the time. I can become the first round of investment on a certain company. Mostly this investment will be done also via Bitcoin. So I have to have Bitcoin as an investor first. But I invest in the company and I get the company's coin instead. When the company grows up, I have more money because this coin now worth money, worth value, etc. The other trend which is against it, you would see the big guys, Visa and MasterCard, they did not say the last word in this game. As a matter of fact, in the next couple of months, they are going to issue a new API. It's called P2P card transfer, person to person. We already facilitated a mobile application. So one person can send another person. For example, Jack, if you have a Visa and I have MasterCard, I can send you right now $100 to your card to card, without PSP, without gateway, without anyone in the middle. So basically Visa, MasterCard understood they're losing a lot of clientele, a lot of traffic towards either Bitcoins, blockchains, or EMI licenses like PayPal or WeChat, so that they enabled one person to transfer money to another person. And I think the world today, Visa, MasterCard, are going to fight it, because in the end of the day you have to enable the Bitcoin, like you're doing. You have the issuing card as well, right? Like you do issuing cards? Okay, dollar token. Okay, so some other platforms that you want to enable your Bitcoin and have credit card as well, you need to go to either Visa, MasterCard, money remittance, EMI licenses, the traditional licenses, and to become a part of the Visa, MasterCard network and to play under their game in the end of the day. So from one hand, you see different type of investments totally differently. From the other hand, you see Visa, MasterCard trying to fight it back and to do their own steps to gain these users back into the Visa, MasterCard network. So interesting would be what will be in the next few years.
Thank you very much for all our panelists, providing all the payment solutions of tomorrow today. It will be interesting to see how many of the industry participants outside will implement the interesting, innovative things that we've just heard. We'll take 5 minutes break for our camera team and then proceed straight to an interesting keynote speech. We've been talking a lot about traders and how they behave, so we will have another speech outlining portfolio and risk management for Chinese traders. So this is an interesting session both for you who trade and those who want to understand more how your clients behave. So we'll start in 5 minutes. Thank you.